Hi there, this is Lee Raymond, and I'm here this morning to talk to you about why do electional astrology. And so this is an introduction to this electional course you've signed up for. Now, it may seem a little odd that I'm beginning with why do electional astrology, as in, well, you signed up for the course. Of course you want to do electional astrology, so why is there even a question about this? Well, I'm starting here because it's a good place to at least begin at the beginning, asking what it is that you're doing, what it is you're attempting to learn, what kind of expectations you should have about electional astrology. Okay, some ideas about this. First of all, it's a completely valid question to ask whether, by using the rules of electional astrology, you can get something that your natal chart precludes. And in this case, the answer is most probably not. Okay, what you're doing with electional is you're playing with the statistics, so to speak. You're saying, I would like to get the maximum that I can get from what I'm doing. With the idea that we all understand that the maximum for me is not the same as the maximum for you or the maximum for somebody else. So, having my chart, I am not going to achieve the same things as somebody else, no matter how much I use electional. On the other hand, by picking times to do things, I can maximize what I can get. Okay, now, having said this, does everybody need electional astrology? Well, I would say actually the answer is probably no. And one area that comes to mind on this is stock markets. I've known people who could always pick the best time to buy a stock, and their luck was amazing. And maybe it is because they weren't attempting to buy stocks at the wrong time, but some people have run off luck on it. On the other hand, I've worked with people with electional to try to improve their luck on it, and some of them you can't improve the luck at all. So there seems to be this range of people who are naturally lucky, people who are naturally unlucky, and then the rest of us who seem to mostly fall in between. So it's the in-between group where electional can really improve things. Now, another thing I would suggest that you watch as you're studying electional astrology, because as you'll be seeing as you go through this course, there is a lot of overlap between the methods of electional astrology and horary astrology. And horary astrology is, of course, the great divinatory method of astrology. And so one of the things that I think is important when you study electional is to understand that picking a time to do something is an omen-based system. And you, as the astrologer, as the expert in this matter, need to be aware of the omens. And this includes the omens where you can tell this is not a good idea. Now, what do I mean by the omens where you can tell this is not a good idea? Well, a perfectly good example of this, one of the most common kinds of electional, the kind you're going to be studying in the first lesson of this course, is relationships. And I have done relationship electionals for people where one of two things happens. One is they give you a very fixed time range and nothing works because they've told you that it's got to be Saturday afternoon between 2 and 4 p.m. and these particular Saturdays are out, and those were the only ones with decent moons. Another thing you may see is you find an absolutely fantastic time, and one of the in-laws can't make it. And then you find another fantastic time, and one of the in-laws can't make it. Now, I'm going to tell you, the odds of this marriage working are low. Because it's interesting that if something is really not going to work, and you give them this fabulous time, something will screw up the time. So this, again, is something to watch for. If, as you're working with somebody on doing an electional, every time that you think is good, they just can't do, maybe it's an omen that really either they don't really want it to work or it can't work. And there are points where you say, okay, You hired me to do a time. You didn't hire me to do 16 times. And from a client standpoint, that's maybe how to handle it. But watch for this. And watch for this in your own life, too, because when you see that you're on to a series of times where the only time that something can be done is a time where you know astrologically it shouldn't be done. This is telling you something. And this is one of the most valuable things that you can be aware of as you help other people and yourself to understand more clearly how the flow of time works with the efficacy of events.